I'm going to cover two sections, question 2 and question 3 off of EA4 to get you started. Question 4, I don't plan to cover by video, but by using and learning about both VLOOKUP and XLOOKUP, you should be able to translate that information to question 4. As a reminder for those in class, I gave you a couple of websites. ExcelJet's one of them, and then there was another practice site for the VLOOKUPs. If you need more practice, I encourage you to do that. There's no substitute for that. Okay, on to 2B. 2B says, for the pay sheet, please use the VLOOKUP function to complete column G using the data from column A and B. So I'm supposed to do a very simple function, VLOOKUP, to complete the pay column. And so what I have is two tables. I have a table made up of column A and B, and then a table made up of D, E, F, G, and I want to take the salaries over to column G. Okay, so let's take a look and see how we would do it. If I were just going to do this without a function, I'm going to see, okay, there's this person's ID. Do I have an ID over here? Well, lo and behold, yes, I do. So if I find this ID here, then I'm going to assume that they're the same person. And so in this case, column B contains the salary, and I want to put the salary right here. So that would be $131,505. Okay, so let's just see if we can do this with a VLOOKUP. So we begin, once again, it's a formula or a function. We begin with an equal sign. We're going to do VLOOKUP. And then it shows me the simple parameters. So the first thing is, what am I looking up? And in my case, what I'm looking up is what's in the column D. That's what I'm trying to find. So I'm going to do D2. Now, just for clarity in this presentation, I'll just say, remember what we've discussed before. D2 is fine, but if you want it to not move, not change, you would use $D, $2. Okay, so in this case, now I'm saying, where am I going to look for it? The table array. I'm going to look for it in $A, $2, colon, $B, $12. And that selects the entire table data where I would find the answer. Now the number is called the column index number. That is, of the table that I just selected in red, what column number would be the value I would return once I find a match. And so in this case, there's two columns selected. I want the pay column, so that's the second column. I'm going to enter the number 2. And then last, is it an approximate match or a false match? An approximate match or an exact match. And so we would use false, or you can use 0, and then you do the close parentheses and you hit enter. And we can see, once again, with these two numbers, the IDs match, and it found the salary, and lo and behold, that salary or the pay that the person is receiving is accurate. Now there's a second part to this, 2C, is there, if there are no matches, use if error to display the word, charity, okay? So let me just say that in this case, it wouldn't have mattered, but how we would do that is we would do in front, just behind the equal sign, if error, and then you are going to give the first parameter for if error the VLOOKUP function, and then you would do a comma, and then you would type in the word charity, and that would be the second parameter. So if I hit enter here, it does not change the value, and you can go from there. Last thing I'll give you is a tip. Now that you've got the formula, if you've done this, the actual setup correctly as far as how you've selected the range, you could potentially do a copy and paste. So let's try it. I'm going to do Command C on a Mac. That would be Control C on a PC. And then I'm going to do Control V or Command V on the Mac. And I can go down further. And each time, so I go back up and look at the function. Notice, because I use those dollar symbols, the range is not changing. That's exactly what we want. But it is changing that first parameter. and that matches the same row I'm on, which is what we want it to do. Okay, so that's your tip for how to set up the VLOOKUP. It's not meant to be difficult. There's just 4 parameters. And so just remember, the first one's what you're looking up. The second one is the range of where I'm looking for it. The third is from that table I've selected, what's the column number I'm going to return, the column number I'm looking to return. And then the last should be 0 because we do want an exact match on this VLOOKUP table. Okay, now let's move to the next sheet. Let me copy this instruction set to here so you can see it. I'll zoom in a little bit. Now, we are through with 2, presumably. For my purposes, I'm through with it. And then we're going to do an XLOOKUP. The XLOOKUP, I'm looking at the payband sheet, and 3D says, please use the XLOOKUP function to complete column E. Okay? Column E, using the data from column G and H. Okay, so this one is a little different problem. I've got a salary, and I need to figure out what pay band the salary is in. So here's what you're going to do. $131,000 is the salary of John Doe. And I have these pay bands where it's a range. So the question is what salary is John making? Is it higher than 150? The answer is no. Is it less than 150? Yes. But is it greater than 100? The answer is yes. So we expect the answer to be level D. So his salary is going to be between these two, and you take the lower number. Take, for example, if the salary were $40,000, it would be a level A. Okay. If you do happen to have an exact match, we don't in this case, but if you do happen to have an exact match, like 50,000, it would just be clearly what to do. But in these cases, none of them are an exact match. Okay, so I'm going to give you, once again, the function XLOOKUP. XLOOKUP, again, it has to be an Office 365 computer, or an Office 365 version of Excel, or higher than really Excel 2019 would have it. If you don't have XLOOKUP, you're going to have to get to a computer that does have it. Microsoft Excel is available on the Mac or PC, and you can also go to Weir Hall Labs if you need to. You can use a friend's computer, but in reality, you need to be able to use XLOOKUP to complete this exercise. So XLOOKUP, it takes more parameters. Oops, I'm having a hard time typing. And the XLOOKUP function, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 parameters. The first thing is, what are we looking up? We are looking up the salary. In this case, it's coming from the pay column. So let me show you, once again, it's this pay column here. So we'll do it one more time. XLOOKUP. I'm looking up D2. The lookup array, where am I looking for the actual pay information? It's going to be in the G column. If you hear some sighing, it's my dog Phoebe. She's behind me on the couch. Okay, so I'm going to look for the pay in the pay minimum salaries. And then in the next column, I'm going to have the return array, what I want to display in column E, which is going to be the H Now notice I've got H2 to H6, those dollar symbols again, if you copy and paste it, it's going to leave those alone, it's going to anchor it. Last thing is, if it's not found, do I display charity? Yes, chatter, no, charity. I'm not looking for an exact match. In this case, the number I'm going to do is -1 because I want it to be an exact match or the next smaller item. And then last, search first to last. Yes, I want to do that. And so those are your parameters. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 parameters. Very similar to what VLOOKUP did. It's just broken down clearly into different categories of how you would identify what to look up and what to return. And it does give you an error option built in. So let's enter level D. That's what we'd expect. The salary is greater than 100,000 and less than 150,000. So level D is the correct answer. Now there's some issues that you have to work through. And notice in 3E and F, if there are no matches, use XLOOKUP parameters to display the word charity without quotes. Well, you'd think that we've got that, but I'm suggesting you have to use if and isNumber functions to handle blank cells. The reason is that here's a salary where if I go and put the function here and copy and paste it, it's going to give me level E. Well, that's not the correct answer. Again, I've shared in class, sometimes Excel will do something, but it doesn't do the correct thing. So what you need to do in all of these is you have to somehow figure out what I can do if the value is blank, if the pay value in that pay column, column D, if it's blank. So in my case, I covered in class the if function. So you're going to do the if function with isNumber, and you're going to look up D6 in this case. And then the first parameter, it's hard to see, is the entire XLOOKUP feedback. And then the second parameter will execute when the isNumber function returns a number or the value true. So isNumber is evaluating D6. It's going to go true or false. If it's a number, it's going to say true. And in that case, it will execute the XLOOKUP function. If it's false, if the isNumber is false, it's going to display the word charity. So let's hit enter. Boom, it works. Now if I take this function and copy it back to this one, it still works because the pay column, column D, is a number. And so it will execute the XLOOKUP just like it would normally do if I did not do this if syntax. So just so you know, the if syntax is if, and then I have three parameters, just like we covered in class. Logical test is the isNumber function. So I'm going to do isNumber, some column, some cell. In my case, I'm doing a specific cell, so D6 is an example. And if that isNumber D6 evaluation is true, is it a number? Yes. Then it's going to return a true, and then it's going to execute this second parameter, whatever it is. And then if it's not true, if the isNumber is false, it's going to execute the third. So that's all we did to surround the XLOOKUP to give us the word charity in the E6 column. Okay, those are your tips to get you started on steps 2 and 3. You will need to figure out step 4 on your own. Work with each other. You've got enough knowledge with your XLOOKUP that I've covered today to make that happen. And good luck.